Hi, I'm Radiance. Usually you're joining me in my kitchen. In my kitchens, I have two. And usually you find me in those spaces, cooking it up, chefing it up, creating enticing recipes that are both, or that are all, I should say, not both, but that are delicious and creative and simplistic and foodie inspired. I'm the foodie, by the way, but inspired by my experiences in my life, culture, all those things. But today I'm going to sit with you and have a discussion. And this is something I've actually never talked about, but came up for me recently. And it is what I learned about being in a relationship with a vegan or vegetarian. Yeah, stay tuned. So I've been on my plant-based food, health, I'll call it a journey and adventure for, it's been at least, I would say, 20 years or so. It's been a while. I'm from the Caribbean, so I grew up with things like jerk chicken and oxtail and curry chicken and, chicken soup and dumpling and banana and ake and saltfish and all those delicious things. I grew up around all that. Sweets weren't a big part of my growing up, meaning culturally speaking, but honestly, I was that kid that, like, when I got money from my mom and I would stay at my grandmother's, in New York City, I was at that corner store eating moon pies and ho-hos and ding-dongs and Cheetos. And I always like to pair salty and sweet. I never knew why, but I always had to have like a salty and sweet snack, and I would eat those things together. So my journey didn't, started off with different things. My mother made like, a lot of like that culture food I just mentioned, right? But as a kid, like every Friday we would have like something different. So some Fridays it was Chinese from a spot that was like, in Westchester where I grew up. Some, those foods were like pizza. Sometimes it was McDonald's. Sometimes it was KFC. Like you ran the gamut of what it was, and I ate it as a kid. Heck, when my mother was working a lot, and sometimes, like I was when I got old enough to be, I guess, by myself. Or if I like came home from school, whatever, like I would have stuff like kiddie cuisine. I don't know if y'all remember what that is. I don't even know if it still exists, but it was like the kids' version of a hungry man dinner. It was a TV dinner, a frozen dinner. And so I mentioned all to say that my food journey didn't start off in a very helpful way. I just ate whatever. I do remember distinctly growing up, my mother at one point switched from using ground beef to ground turkey, and that's how I was introduced to it. So when I started cooking for myself and I started living, by myself and being responsible for myself, I would do stuff like ground turkey and baked chicken and thinking it was healthy. Now, I'm not saying those things can't be healthy. I just didn't know. On the flip side, I had a father that was really into health. And when I say really into health, what he taught me and what I learned from him was, he was big on, I used to say he was big on pills and potions. I don't remember the company right now, but like he did a lot of like those little like powdery drinks that you'd mix. I can see the containers right now. They were like, like a fluorescent kind of neon pink and a neon fluorescent type of blue or teal. And he would add water and shake it up and drink those things. And I tried them a couple of times and they were not the best tasting things, but he swore it was doing so much for his health. And so this is what I believe got me or started to prompt me on a health journey. So when I got older, I took all that information and I began to look into it myself. I know I already love food. I've always loved food. I was a kid that used to take my grandmother's cookbooks and would copy down the recipes and, write them down and think I was making my own cookbooks, right? Then I started watching, Food Network and Cooking Channel. One of my favorite websites when I was a kid, honestly, was cooking.com. Like I was, people would probably, like some kids probably wanted the car or the doll. Like I wanted the cooking equipment. Now I never bought anything back then or really asked for anything, but that's what I was enamored by. So I should have thought about, like this is what I wanted, but that was a sign. And so fast forward to like, my start, I began to like, look at different things, and I still wasn't where I'm at now. So to my point, what I learned about dating a vegan or vegetarian. So the first time I ever dated someone that was, vegetarian or vegan, what I learned that vegetarians and vegans can be overweight. I'm gonna say it. They can be fat. Yep, I'm gonna say it. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way when I say it. I mean it to be a real thing. I didn't know. I never actually gave it much thought. Like I never sat and thought, oh, just because you're vegan or vegetarian or any diet that you're gonna be skinny. No specific diet means you're gonna be a certain way. That's just what it is. Because we all have different bodies, and food reacts differently, and our movements, and there's different things that inform how, and plus there's genetics, right? But I just didn't know. And what I learned from that going forward as I began to study it, because when I dated this person, honestly speaking, I was nowhere near a vegetarian. What I did in that particular dating ship, because it wasn't a relationship, a dating ship, what I did in that relationship was I decided to, respect this person and not eat meat around them. And I remember saying, I could never give up chicken. Well, guess what? Now chicken is probably one of the least things that I like crave ever. And I say it because I've had it. I can't say I've never had chicken in this journey ever, but like, it's not the go-to thing. Like if I'm gonna get off of a plant-based diet, it's not the first thing I go to. It's just not. But when I was into it, I was like, oh, I can't. And then later on, that relationship ended, and I later on began to actually not eat meat. I began to be more vegetarian. And I say loosely because I learned that, okay, there's things I like and things I don't like. So that's the first thing I learned. I also learned, and this is in conjunction to that, I learned that part of the reason why maybe some people are don't lose weight or maybe gain weight or are fat or overweight is because of the replacements. So a lot of vegans and vegetarians, when they transition and start to eat a more plant-based diet or eat more vegetarian or whatever term they're deeming it, they do a lot of carbs. They do a lot of bread and pizza, bread, pizza, bread, like that kind of stuff. And they'll load up on that, and there's not always a balance. There's not a balance of water. There's not a balance of vegetables. There's not a balance of freshness going on. And ultimately, that's all you're going to eat. It's going to show up, and what you eat is going to show up in your body. So I learned that. I learned that there is no one size fits all way of eating. There's not really a uniformity. Just like for every person, there's a different opinion, a different point of view. It's the same thing when it comes to a vegan and vegetarian diet. And I say this because dating a vegan and vegetarian, I learned that everyone performed differently. Everyone looked at food differently. I learned that some people were like, yeah, I'm vegan, but I'll eat some honey. And then I met people who were like strict, and they're like, there's no way I would ever eat honey. That is bee poop. Like, there's this, like I said, different opinions, different people. On the vegetarian side of things, I would say that, some people would do like, I'm a flexitarian. I'll eat fish, but I won't eat chicken. I'll eat eggs, but I won't eat this. And so additionally, this is what else I've learned. I learned that I hate labels because of that. So dating a vegetarian and vegan made me realize, and also experiencing lifestyle myself, made me realize that I don't like labels because there were so many around me. It was kind of confusing. And it's not a judgment. I mean, you eat whatever you want to eat. I don't have an issue with how anyone eats. I just got confused because there was no uniformity. Like there was not just one way. And I'm not saying there has to be one way of eating. I don't think it's one size fits all. I don't believe that everyone should eat a plant-based diet because I mentioned in the previous video, it may not even be for you culturally, health-wise. There's maybe a number of reasons why it's not for you. And it's also a choice, right? Just like I don't believe everybody should maybe be a meat eater either. Like I don't think that everyone should be like this one size fits all. I do believe there's room for interpretation and knowing what works for your body, right? Because then there's allergies, So that's just something taking space. What I learned, and I'll bring this up in terms of the health thing, what I learned from dating a vegan or vegetarian is that there's such a thing as food intolerances and allergies that I never pictured would happen. And I learned that in those cases, sometimes people ate other things that weren't popular or is known, or they did that flexitarian thing because they had allergies. I once dated somebody that was allergic to so many things, so many fruits, so many vegetables. They could only eat, and this was a long time ago, I believe they could only eat like ground meat a certain way. I can't remember all of it right now, but there was a lot, like they would do like a burger, just the patty, anything else. It was, bottom line is they had a lot of allergies and there were a lot of things they couldn't eat. And I dated this person for a while, and in that time, I got to see the breakouts. I got to see what happened when they maybe mistakenly had something if we went out. I cooked a lot, and so that's how I knew there were certain things that that person could eat or couldn't eat, and I was right with that. But honestly, I learned that oftentimes I'll say myself, but I'll say people. I'm not aware, and people aren't aware of intolerances and allergies and things that may cause a shift in what a person will and won't intake, and a shift in even strictness, right? I've learned that some people will be I'm eating this way because I love the animals, or I'm eating this way for health, but they don't care about anything else. And it's not a judgment. I just didn't know, because I think in the beginning I thought that all vegans, for lack of a better term, that label, or all people who didn't, eat animal flesh, wouldn't wear leather, or wouldn't, like buy fur. That is not true. That is so not true. And so I learned that, it's not one size fits all. I don't think there's a blanket way of being. And that's the other thing I learned. I learned that there's no blanket way of being or moving or existing as a vegan, as a vegetarian, or as anything you choose to be. So that's what I learned. What I also learned, I learned fun and adventure. I learned new ways of eating. I learned to try new things. It actually challenged me because I would cook for some of the people in my life. It taught me actually how to experiment and try new foods and try new flavor pairings and try new ways of making certain things, right? Like in the beginning, I never fried an oyster mushroom. I didn't even know oyster mushrooms existed. I ate mushrooms, but on pizza, honestly. And now mushrooms have become a big part of my diet in my life, and even more so experimenting with those things, I never used to use anything else in terms of flowers. Now, if you were to look at my cabinet, I probably have at least 7 to 10 types of flour, right? I do have regular all-purpose flour, but I have kamut and spelt and chickpea and teff and what else? Whole wheat and pastry, and I have all types of flour, that I use mostly in baking, but a lot of that stuff is also used in regular cooking. Like I've used chickpea flours for chickpea crackers, which is a recipe I do have, on this channel. So, I've learned that it can be fun and adventuresome. I've learned, like I said, to make things in new ways, to see things in new ways. I've learned culturally some things that I could add to what I, would make to my menu, my diet. And I've learned about other cultures, and other foods. So overall, I would say that dating a vegan or vegetarian has expanded my food world, my food knowledge. my food curiosity, and cravings, you know what I mean, and creativity. So I hope this video was, you know, somewhat enlightening and helpful to you. It was just a little story time, a little sharing. But, you know, thank you for joining me. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Usually I share other insights as well as tips. And click the link in my bio, and, you know, once you subscribe as well, and join my free VIP group. Come on over, you know, come join me in the community where I share more stories, more insights, detailed recipes, fun giveaways, and the like. All right. So thank you so much for joining me, and you have a wonderful one, and I'll see you next time.